letting some folks in, and we'll be starting very shortly. For the folks who are joining us, definitely feel free to turn on your cameras and say hello. Remember to get your questions ready for Andrew. We're happy to have folks ask the question on camera. If you want to have a little bit of a conversation, if you want to pop your question on the chat, we can do that as well. We definitely want to get to everyone. I will be, just while we're covering some questions with Andrew, I might just be, muting some folks. But if anyone wants to speak, please let me know either in the chat. You can use the raise hand feature, and you should, we can do that. I'll keep an eye on the gallery. So if you can't find the raise hand feature, you can also raise your hand, and I will make sure to see you. Hey, Taisha, I see that you raise your hand. So if you have actually any questions to get started, definitely let me know, and we're happy to cover those. But we'll also be beginning with a quick introduction of Andrew here, and talking about his background, and yeah, we'll go from there. But hey, Taisha, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Did you have any questions for us?
Not right now.
Okay, sounds good. So if you do have any questions, or if you think of anything, let us know. But it's very nice to see you here. It's very nice to see everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. And yeah, so I'm just gonna go ahead and introduce Andrew Jobling, who is our featured speaker here today. Andrew is a 7-time best-selling author, extremely accomplished wellness speaker. I had the pleasure of meeting Andrew in San Francisco about a year ago, and we've been working together ever since. And it's really, really a pleasure having you here, Andrew. Thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us some of your insight.
Thanks, Fernando. It's always a pleasure. I always love speaking to eager people that are wanting to write a book and get their message out to the world. So it's an absolute pleasure. So thanks for having me. And hello, everyone. There's some familiar faces. Hello, Annie and Fred, Christine. How are you? And all of the people that I don't know. So thank you so much for being part of this.
Absolutely. So Andrew, why don't we go ahead and get started with just a quick introduction. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, especially around how you got started in your journey towards authorship and storytelling, and what brings you here today. Yeah,
good question. And so, I mean, there are people here that have heard my story, so I apologize for those guys. But for those of you that are here, wanting to, and I'd be interested to know, if you can just either raise your hand physically or use the hand raise option. How many of you are in the process of writing a book, or at least wanting to write a book? Okay, well, I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it, since this is about writing a book? And I know there are people here that have done it, so that are successfully published. But look, I'm here to give all of you hope. My background is not writing. It was never a goal of mine. I never woke up as a child imagining being the next best-selling author. In fact, my background is sport. I played Australian football, and for those of you that are not Australian, you've probably got no idea what that is. So we won't go into it. But I played professional sport. I've got a background in the health and fitness industry. I was a personal trainer for 15 years, and I thought I was on my path to be a professional sportsman, to be a successful personal trainer, and I guess life happens, doesn't it? And I found myself after 15 years of personal training with a lot of information, but not really knowing how to get my information out to the world. I tried things, I tried businesses, I failed, I lost a lot of money. I ended up working 7 days a week in 2 businesses. and it was just sorry, I'm just going to mute if you're not muted, just so because there's a little bit of background noise. Thank you. So yeah, look, I guess I found myself at a point in my career where I was in a lot of debt. I was working crazy hours. I was not living my purpose. I was not loving my life. And I really felt stuck. And I don't know if any of you have ever felt stuck in your life. And I thought, and I just asked myself this question. And the question was this. And I sat there and I just said, how am I possibly going to get my message out to the world? And how am I going to change my circumstances? You know, the two things I wanted to do is get a message out, but I wanted to have a life and I wanted to love my life. And at that moment, a little voice came out from, I don't know where it came from, and it said, write a book. And to me, at that point in my life, it was probably the most illogical, unreasonable idea possible, because I have as I said, up until that moment, never thought about writing a book. No background, experience, qualifications. I had no time. I was running two businesses. I was I just had nothing that would suggest that writing a book was a smart thing to do. But it was a gut feeling. It was an intuitive gut feeling. And I just said, why not? Why can't I write a book? And it was interesting with that little thought that why not? Why can't I write a book? I got started. And within 2 years of that pretty illogical decision, I had published 2 books. And they went on to become bestsellers. Both of those books, within a couple of years, sold over 100,000 copies. And that sort of started the journey for me. And really, I guess ever since, my passion has been inspiring people, helping people. At Fernando, as you know, my mission is to create a wave of wellness around the world. And so I do that with my speaking, but I now do that by helping other people write books and get their message out to the world. And there are people on this call today, which I'm very grateful they're here, but I've helped them get their message out to the world as well. So since becoming an author, Fernando, let me tell you, my life has transformed 180 degrees. I've retired from personal training within 2 years. I now speak, I now write, I now mentor, I now do stuff that I love. It was the best decision I've ever made. And I think the most important thing, if you're sitting there with a vision to become an author, you are good enough. And I just want you to know that. Your message is good enough. You are good enough. You've just got to follow through. You've got to keep going. You've got to finish what you start. Most people never, ever, ever finish what they start. And again, there's testimonies on this call right now of people that have finished what they've started, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful achievement, great thing to do. So I think that's a reasonable introduction.
Absolutely, Andrew. I really appreciate it. So again, I'm going to ask folks, again, you can use the raise hand feature, or you can raise your hand if you have a question at any point, and I'll be sure to cover you next. So I am keeping my eye out here. I don't see anyone quite yet. So I'm going to follow up with something that I think most folks would be interested in knowing, which is, Andrew, you wrote, you had that idea of writing a book, right? And I'm sure that it wasn't something that, as you said, you had no previous experience. And as you also said, it's a lot of folks here, and I would argue myself included, I've started writing books and I'm sure I have a lot of chapter 1s and chapter 2s. So how was it? What is a technique you could recommend that can keep someone on that path of actually finishing what it is that they're starting?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Fernando. And honestly, this is the key question. Whether you can write or not is irrelevant. Whether you believe your content's good enough is irrelevant. What your genre is irrelevant. Whether it's a fiction or a non-fiction is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is you finishing what you start. And there are so many forces. We live in a world where we're pulled in different directions. Unfortunately, most people are pulled back to their status quo and they never break free. And, we have an idea, to be an author, and I mean, you're all on this call. And again, I'm very respectful of your time and very grateful that you're here. But don't just sit here and go, okay, well, that's good information. What I really want to encourage you to do is get moving. The only way you will ever be a published author is forward motion every single day. Now, that's not easy because we live in a world where you're going to get pulled back time after time. You're going to get pulled back by other people's opinions. You're going to get pulled back by your own opinions, your own self-belief. You're going to get pulled back by the negativity of the world that's happening. But there's two things that are going to pull you forward to success. And the first thing is having a very, very clear vision. So for me, Fernando, I had a very clear vision of what I was trying to achieve, and very clear that a book would allow me to do that. And the first thing I wanted to have a global impact on this world. I knew that was a strong dream for me. Number two, I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to be able to choose the life that I lived. I wanted to be able to spend my life waking up every day excited, not every day stressed and anxious. I wanted to wake up going, yay, another day to create, to help, to inspire, to inform, another day to travel, to do things that I wanted to do. That was very clear. Because for most of my life, I'd asked myself the question, or I had been asked the question, what do you want to do? But no one had ever asked me the question, how do you want to live? And when you start asking yourself the question, I would again challenge all of you to start thinking about, how do you want to live? What sort of life do you want to live? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to inspire? Get very, very clear on it. So that first thing is a clear vision. And the second is a desire. Now, there's a great saying, and that saying is, what you can tolerate, you will not change. Okay, so if you can tolerate where you're at in life, you will not change. What you've got to do is you've got to make where you are so intolerable, and not having the life you want so intolerable that you start moving forward. The desire is the thing that's going to move you forward. The clarity is one thing, but if you don't have a strong emotional desire to create the outcome, then you'll let all sorts of things stop you, distract you, push you off track. So that the first part is creating a pull towards what you want. Then the second part is starting to break some of those tethers that are holding you back. And that is you. Sorry to say it. It's me. It's you. You are your greatest ally and your worst enemy. And you will achieve what you believe, right? We've heard it before a million times. Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right. This is 100% about belief. Once you've got clarity and desire, the only thing left is believing that I can do it. And for me, Fernando, honestly, I didn't know if I could do it. I just didn't believe that I couldn't. And there's a difference. It wasn't necessarily that I felt like I could do it. I just didn't know that I couldn't. I had no evidence to prove that Andrew Joblin could not be a successful published author. No one could put me in a court of law and prove without any shadow of a doubt that I cannot be an author. Therefore, there must be a way I can do it. And my reasoning was this: I can talk. Because I had no qualifications. I said, I can talk and people can understand me, therefore I must be able to write. And what is a book? A book's a whole lot of words. It really is just a bunch of chapters. And each chapter is a whole lot of paragraphs. And each paragraph is a string of sentences. And each sentence is a bunch of words. So really it's one word at a time. And once I just got started and I created a plan, and you need a plan. And I got writing and I committed to every single day, pockets. And I never let myself off the hook. There were times I couldn't be bothered, but I thought about what I wanted. I thought about how important that was for me. There were days when I doubted myself, when I said, you can't do this. And I told myself to shut up and keep writing, because the key to success is forward motion. The hardest time you will find in writing your book is when you're thinking about it. The hardest time is when you go, oh, can I do it? Will I find a publisher? Is it any good? The more you think, the less you will do. So stop thinking in the right way. When I say stop thinking, I mean stop over-analyzing and just move. Because every step you take, every word you write will open doors and create possibilities and give you confidence and help you believe that you can do it. So I think if I answer the question, Fernando, get a clear vision, get a strong desire, and start to build a belief, build a team of people, a team of success around you, affirmations and encouragement. Get a mentor, and that's something I do. Get an accountability partner. You find some people that will encourage you and support you, and just keep going. Just do. Once you start writing, good or bad, keep going. Don't stop and assess it. Don't worry about how good it is. Don't worry about whether what you're going to say is going to offend anyone. Just keep writing. Once you've got a first draft, then you've got something to work with.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'll even say, I think a lot of the times when you hear that, find a community, find a partner, that can sound difficult, and it certainly is at times. So I'm going to be putting my email here. I just sent that on the chat to everybody. Best Being can definitely help you both from a community perspective to just find like-minded folks, as well as any sort of professional connections to a partner or an accountability coach or something like that. Definitely reach out to me at fpartners@bestbeing.com. It's out there on the chat, and I can help you get connected. So, Andrew, before I proceed with my questions, we have actually a question here on the chat. So, Leviette, thank you so much for the wonderful question. And it is, how do you decide on what topic or idea to write first? And how easy was it to narrow it down for you, Andrew?
Good question, Leviette, and thank you. And thanks for being here. That's a really good question. Well, do you know what? For me, the topic found me. I didn't find the topic because I was not planning on writing a book. It wasn't like, I'm going to write a book. What am I going to write a book about? I was compelled to get a message out to the world, and the topic and the message was right there in my face. I knew what I wanted to say. I knew how I wanted to say it. So if you're sitting there, can I just ask with a show of hands, how many of you want to write a book but you're not sure on your topic? So Leviette, I'm guessing that's you. You're not sure where to start, which topic to start with. So I've got a couple of people that want to write a book but don't know where to start. Then the next question is, do you want to write a fiction or do you want to write a non-fiction? How many of you are writing non-fiction or would like to write a non-fiction?
You know what? I'm going to create a poll real quick, Andrew.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yep, I'll just ask everyone if you guys can give me one quick second. I'll just create a poll for everyone to answer, and then we'll know.
That'd be good. So, this is why I love Fernando. He just does this stuff just amazing. So while Fernando's doing that, so depending on if you're writing non-fiction, if you're writing, and a lot of you, I'm guessing, I want to base this around your experiences, your life, things that have happened. I'm thinking, correct? Would I be correct in saying that? So you have a message. You have from your life experience, you have a story to tell, and within that story, captured in that story, is something that will change lives. There's a message that will change lives. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is, what's my message? If I had to leave the world today and I could only leave one thing, one message, what would that message be? So now, if you're writing fiction, and it looks like there's a few people there that are fiction writers, so it looks like we've got about half and half at the moment. Fernando, thanks for that. Now the non-fictions are taking over. It's a bit of a race here. I'm enjoying watching this. So it looks like we've got about twice as many non-fiction writers as fiction writers. Now, so ask the question. So, Leviette, you just want to say, what's my message? What am I trying to get out to the world? And when you come up with that message, that's the foundation of your book. Now, whether you write non-fiction or fiction, that's up to you. Because if you're writing fiction, potentially, I guess you're still wanting to maybe base it on real life experience, and you're wanting to, maybe in a subtle way, impact lives. And I hope you do. Like, I hope it's not just about writing a book for entertainment value, which is great. And what I'm saying is you want to make it entertaining. But if you can weave in a message throughout it, some of the greatest movies or books, non-fiction, are the ones where you finish reading it and there's a real strong positive feeling you get. Yeah. So find your message, find what are you about, and make sure that becomes I guess the core of the book, of your topic. Did that answer your question, Leviette?
All right, fantastic. And Leviette, if at any point you have any other questions, or you want to just hop on the mic and let us know, feel free to let us know, and we can go ahead and unmute you, and you can ask that question to Andrew. But for now, we have another question from Taisha, which is very interesting. So would you say, Andrew, that writing a blog is the same thing as writing a book? Or are they in the same category? Can they be in the same category? And just I've written a couple of blog posts for my startup, so Taisha, I have a few thoughts that I can share with you on that as well. If you ever, Andrew, what do you think?
Well, look, I mean, you're writing a blog again for the same reason. I would imagine you're writing a blog to get a positive message out to the world. I write a blog every week, and yeah, it's a way. It's just another platform to get a bigger audience. So is it the same? No, it's not the same. It's going to hit a different market. It's going to hit a different audience. So all of the different platforms we have available to us right now, and we've got right now, obviously we can run these live events, this is my preference always to run a live event, but I've got a podcast. Why? Because some people want to listen rather than read. I write a blog because some people just want to read little bits rather than read a whole book. I write books because some people love a whole book. How many of you love reading? How many of you love getting a good book and just sitting there and reading for an hour or 2 hours, or just getting lost in a great story? They're different. There's a different platform. So Taisha, the answer to your question is they're definitely all these different platforms and ways of getting a message out are going to hit different markets, different people, different audiences based on their preferences, but they're different. And let me just tell you, writing a blog, you can write a blog, you can set up a blog post, you can add blog to your website. That's an easy thing to do, right? And if you're not doing that, I would recommend you start doing that. That's a simple thing to do. There's something about, this is for me, and I don't know, this is ego maybe, or pride or whatever. There was something for me about, I want to write a book that a publisher thinks is good enough to invest in and then promote it out to the world. To me, that was a real confidence builder. And let me tell you, when I published my first book, and that's a book called Eat Chocolate, Drink Alcohol, and Be Lean and Healthy. And when I held that book in my hands, I felt like a winner. I felt like not only have I got a message that I believe in, but I have a message that someone else believes in. I've got a message that a publisher is willing to spend money to promote, produce, distribute, and get it out to the world. And there's something so incredibly life-changing, transformational about holding that book in your hand, because you're going to have to go through a journey to make that happen. Write a blog, throw a few paragraphs together, put it on your website, done. To be a published author, it's a real journey. It's character building. You're going to have to face your demons. You're going to have to overcome limiting beliefs. You're going to have to deal with rejection. You're going to have to deal with a whole range of things. So when you get there, amazing, amazing, amazing. And I just want to encourage every single one here that it is so worth that journey, because it's not just the book that you've written. And I'm about to launch, and Fernando will talk about this in a couple of weeks, I'm about to launch a program, a series called It's Not About the Book. And it's definitely not about the book. The book that you hold in your hand represents passion, it represents purpose, it represents confidence, it represents overcoming. It's going to open doors, it's going to create opportunities. So it's not about the book, but let me tell you, you will be a different person holding a published book in your hands than you are right now.
Oh, and Annie, I see that you raise your hand there.
Annie, just let me introduce Annie, because Annie's an amazing lady who I've worked with, and she's recently published her first book. And Annie, how long has that taken to get to that point?
It did take 11 years, but I was going to sort of say all of that, Andrew. Thank you. I'm just really here to support Andrew, because everything he's saying is absolutely true, and I'm an example of that. I met Andrew probably around 7 years ago, but we really started working together seriously 5 years ago, and that's when my world started changing then, where he was very strongly encouraging me to sit down and start doing something about writing my book. At the time I was with my daughter, had just had a brand new baby. So I'm saying, no, I'm too busy. And he insisted. And through that session, we nutted out 20 chapters, headings, because I really had I didn't know where to go. I started writing one page and then left it and then wrote another page. Oh, sorry, my book is a memoir. It is my story. And it's just through Andrew's mentorship and encouragement, I finally did get a book together about 18 months later. But what Andrew is saying about changing your life, my book launch was published on the 28th of February. Now, we all know what happened. And my book launch was set for the 20th of March. And 2 days later, we were all in lockdown. I could not do a thing because of the COVID virus. And I'm still in lockdown. I live in Melbourne, Australia, so I am still in lockdown. And I thought, what am I going to do without a book launch? Well, what did I do? I thought outside the box. Internet, LinkedIn, Instagram, your own Facebook page, create a new Facebook page, network with like-minded people. And honestly, since the last, 4 months, in 4 months, I'm on a blog in the UK. I'm about to do a new podcast in Colorado. I've had a podcast in Boston. I'm being interviewed by our local library. I was in a newsletter, which I had 2 connections through this newsletter. One is I have a disability, so it's a disability newsletter, but they've got a $120,000 subscriber list, 120,000 person subscriber list. And my really, really major big news, Andrew, you have not heard this. This is brand new, hot off the presses. I'm being interviewed by the feature writer of That's Life magazine. So I'm not sure if you've got That's Life in America, but it's got 2.5 million readers in the UK, and and this is without having a book launch. This is utilising the internet, and this is all due to Andrew, who encouraged me and supported me through this whole journey. So yes, I'm here to endorse everything that Andrew's saying. It has definitely changed my life. Yes. So that's really pretty much what I wanted to say.
That's awesome. Well done, Annie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's just the power of persistence and belief, and keep going and never, ever, ever, ever give up. 11 years. So what? It doesn't matter how long it takes. It matters that you keep going and get the job done. So well done, Annie.
That is 100% correct, Andrew. And thank you so much for sharing, Annie. I just wanted to go over to Maury. I saw that you had raised your hand. So did you have a question for us?
Yeah, thanks very much. So my hearing's not great. I was listening to Andrew, and he has a little accent with my hearing. I thought, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. Then I decided to really listen. And every word he said was so valuable and so wise that I just, thank God I sort of pushed through the whole process, and very grateful. And so thank you. And concretely, or my topic, I have it's sort of autobiographical. I've had a very interesting life. I'm a doctor. I write a little bit, but that's not my training. So I spoke to some friends, and they said, will you just pick up a dictaphone, tell your story, and a ghostwriter will complete it. So, you know, I'm a very authentic guy, so I'm worried about me having a message that's about me, my tenacity, my background, and that a ghostwriter is whoever he or she is. So I don't want to dilute what I have to say or have the message missed because somebody else isn't me. They may be a better writer than me, but they never lived my life.
True. That's true. So, Maury, firstly, I apologise. Yeah, I'm an Australian, so we need subtitles, don't we? So, if you organise subtitles for this too fast, please let me know. But, Maury, thank you for sharing that. And what your gut feeling is 100% right. Do not, please, pay a ghostwriter to write your story for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're ridiculously expensive. That's going to cost you a lot of money, okay? And you don't need to spend that. Number two, you're right. They're not you. There's no way known a ghostwriter, no matter how good a writer they are, can capture the essence of who you are, what you've been through. You can't do it. I'm going to tell you a quick story of a lady that I work with. She's from Scotland. She lives in Australia, and she is she lost her son, who she worked for with distressed youth, and her son was murdered by a gang of youth in Scotland. And you know the whole. I won't go into the whole messy story, but the whole legal system apparently over there was absolutely archaic, and she wanted to write this book, but she started paying. Before I met her, she'd already started paying a ghostwriter to do that. She had already spent maybe $20,000 on a ghostwriter, and she said it was the most unsatisfying experience of her life. She said, I made a mistake. It was a horrible experience for her. And I said to her, her name's Jo, I said, Jo, you can write this. She said, no, I can't write. She's telling me that she couldn't write. I said, Jo, just let it flow out of your heart. You can do this. She wrote a book that was published within 12 months. And that book is changing lives. So, Maury, you can write it. Now, whether or not you voice record it or whether you write it, that's your choice. But I wouldn't assume that just because you're voice recording, it's going to save you any time, because when you voice record it, it's got to be transcribed, then it's got to be tidied, then it's got to be polished. Sometimes I believe it's just better to sit down and write it one word at a time. It may take a bit longer, but there's something transformational about writing. Who would agree with that? Whether you write, a journal or you write something, it's transformational. That act of writing is transformational. So, Maury, I'm sure your story is amazing, and I'd love to have a chat to you. Maybe I'll put my email address in the chat box. I'd love to have a chat to you about that. But don't get a ghostwriter. Save your money. Invest a little bit of time. It'll be time so well spent. It'll transform you, but you'll write a way better book because you're writing it from here, from your heart, with your message, with your essence, with your passion. It'll be an amazing book. Trust yourself. It's going to be good.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention something, Andrew, just reinforce the point you made to Maury. I think not from an experience of writing a book, but from the experience of starting a company, which very much so is I'm in the thick of. And I think in some ways it's similar. Whenever I hear Andrew talk about authorship, there's a lot of similarities between finding a publisher and kind of starting a company and finding your community. I would agree with him emphatically that you have to find your community. So to that end, I'm happy to, as I said, make any connections. I can get anyone connected with Andrew. I put my LinkedIn link on the chat there. I encourage anyone here who is curious about being an author or curious about anything at all around the topics we've talked about so far, to go ahead and connect with me. I'm happy to make connections and help out in any way I can. And more importantly, if you're not on LinkedIn, I have no affiliation with LinkedIn. but as a professional, I would highly recommend that you be on that platform. Andrew will attest, and I will attest that you can make tangible, real connections on that platform, unlike, I would say, other platforms today. Andrew and I got connected initially through LinkedIn because of Andrew's incredible tenacity and ability to reach out. So, I would highly encourage that. And I did want to just take 1 second here to just, one of the questions on the chat was about how you go out and find your publisher. And I wanted to, cover that with you, Andrew, but I did want to make a quick point about, about that. Andrew mentioned already that, when you're starting that journey, part of that journey is actually getting, getting that book in your hands and the success of actually having gotten that book published, right? And I do think that one of the things that Andrew mentioned is you go through a lot of rejection in that process. I just wanted to share a story I recently heard. I was actually speaking with one of the co-founders of Tesla, really incredible guy called Mark Tarpenning. And he is, again, a co-founder of Tesla, major investor in Silicon Valley. And he told me how when he's looking at his investments, he considers a certain amount of rejection a good thing. Because if everyone is immediately, up for what you're doing and is immediately like, yes, this is a good idea, that means it's out there and it's not that innovative. So, don't be discouraged by rejection. It's a normal part of the process, and it actually can mean that you have a really good idea on your hands. You just need to find the visionaries in the community to bring it to fruition. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents there, Andrew, but wanted to repeat the question here, which is, Andrew, how did you start your search to find a publisher?
And that's a great question. And I know a lot of people have that question. And so, Fernando, thank you for sharing. Look, I think let's start with, again, I'm going to go back and I'm going to sound really repetitive here, but it starts with your vision. And what do you want to do with that book? How you get it published is very much going to determine the results you get with your book, okay? Well, it's not the only thing, but I'll tell you what, it's going to make a big difference. Effectively, there's 2 ways to get published, and there are more, but I'm just going to talk about 2. You can self-publish, or you can traditional publish, okay? So self-publishing by definition means that you do everything. You pay for it. You're gonna have to do all the marketing, all the PR, all the grunt work, you're gonna have to make all the phone calls, make all the connections, do all the work. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's hard work and it's a full-time gig. Okay. Now, let me just tell you, when I decided, I'm very naive and I'm very spontaneous, and I think that's one of my greatest qualities is my naivety. When I decided to write a book, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to invest time in this, I'm going to write a bestseller. If I do this, I'm going to find a publisher that wants my book and is willing to invest in me and my book. That was my intention from the very beginning. And I want to say to all of you, believe enough in yourself, believe enough in your book that a publisher will want it. Okay? Because what I find, this is what I tend to find with all of the people I've spoken to over many years, is often people will default, not everyone, but some people default to self-publishing because they don't believe in themselves. Okay? Their thought process, it'll be too hard to find a publisher, I'll self-publish. Yeah? Or I don't know if it's good enough for a publisher, so I'll just self-publish it. Okay? Now, there's a very, very big difference between a self-published book and a traditionally published book. Because a book that you go into with the intention of getting it traditionally published, you have to write it with the market in mind, with a publisher in mind, with a bookseller in mind. You've got to be thinking about, how do I engage people? Is this engaging? Is it informative? Is it inspiring? Is there a niche? Is there a need? So you're even at this planning stage. So publishing starts at the planning stage. Yeah, big. So a lot of people will write a book they want to write, but it's not a book that the market would want, and therefore they find themselves hitting brick walls in their attempts to get it published. You've got to think about, what does the market want? What sort of books are they looking at and reading? What are booksellers purchasing and selling? That's a really first step. Okay, so your first step is go, I'm going to get traditionally published. Okay, now then once you've made that decision, right, this is key. You need to stick to that and don't let rejection from publishers change your mind. See, we're under the impression that publishers know everything about publishing. Well, let me tell you, they do not. How many of you love Harry Potter? Do you know, and most people know this now, that J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was rejected by more than 40 publishers. Now, does that tell you something about the publisher's perception of what a good book is? They get it wrong. The only reason Harry Potter is what it is today was because J.K. Rowling believed in her story, believed in herself, and she said, I will keep going until I find one publisher. One, I only need one. She found that one publisher. 40 other publishers are now, I don't know if they've jumped off a cliff or they've fallen into depression or whatever they've done. But did you get what I'm saying? You get what happens, unfortunately, for a lot of people. They send out a submission to a publisher and they get a response, and the response is, no, this is not a book that we would publish. And all of a sudden, inside the head of that author goes, oh, obviously I'm not good enough to get published. Wrong. That publisher was not the right publisher for you. Got it? Not that you're not good enough, they're not good enough. Now, you've got to believe that in your heart, and you've got to know that there is one publisher out there that will publish your book, and you have one goal, and that is to find that publisher. Now, you might send out 10 manuscripts and get rejected. So how many more do you send out? Well, maybe you send out 20. Well, where do you stop? You stop when you're holding a publishing contract in your hands, okay? Now, that may take longer than you want. That might be harder than you think. But if you want the results, you just got to keep believing and keep going and keep persisting. You know, when I published, it was my third book. My first two books were best-selling books. My third book was a book about my mum's cancer journey. You know, very, very emotional, very, very important book for me to get published. And my publishers said no to it, which knocked me for 6. So then I thought, well, I've just got to go and find a publisher. I got rejected by around about 50 publishers and literary agents. But in my heart, this book was going to get published. And let me tell you, the day that I got a publishing contract, I'd actually just got out of the shower and I had a towel around my waist when I got a phone call from a publisher. And not long after that, I was dancing around the house naked because the towel had fallen off. But I can tell you, but I knew that would happen. I knew that would happen. Why? Because I'd already decided in my head and in my heart that would happen. So the answer to the question is, what's the process of getting published? Number one is you need to decide you will be published. And if you don't do that, the rest doesn't matter. You need to make that decision. Then you need to follow submission guidelines. I won't go into details of that today. You know, you write a synopsis, you write a query letter, you send, you keep going, you pick yourself up when you're having a bit of a tantrum, you know, you go into fetal position for a while, you get back up and you go again and you go again. And I promise you, if you're willing to keep going until it happens, it will happen.
That's amazing, Andrew. I really appreciate that. And I think that's really fantastic advice for, you know, for everyone in I think more ways than one. If anyone is ever curious, this is not what I do, but I really like the group of people here. So if anyone is ever curious about how to automate email sendouts to make that process a little easier, happy to cover that with anybody. Again, you guys have my email and my LinkedIn. Yeah, so Andrew, one of the questions, and I think this is really interesting. So Taisha had mentioned that, when she was younger, she used to have an autobiography. She started in the 6th grade, but she has since lost it. And she's wondering how she can begin again because she has cerebral palsy and would like to share her story with the world. And I think that is I'm sure we'll agree, that is a story that we would like to be shared with the world. Do you have any kind of techniques, Andrew, when you were writing, to kind of be able to dig deep and really kind of grasp those memories and that story so you could bring it out again, even if it had happened a while ago?
Yeah, thanks, Fernando, and good on you, Taisha. I was just thinking while I was reading that you were writing an autobiography in grade 6. I'm thinking, wow, you've had a pretty full-on life when you were in grade 6 to be wanting to write an autobiography. So, Taisha, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking? You can type it into the chat or just.
Oh. 29, Andrew. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. I guess starting a book, and I guess what you're asking is how do you get started? I think the first step, and again, I feel like I do repeat myself a lot, but with your book, again, you want to start with the end in mind. First question, Taisha, is ask yourself, what impact do I want to have on the reader? The message, what impact, what do I want the reader to know? How do I want them to feel? What do I want them to do as a result of reading the book? Now, if you can get that clear in your mind, then really all you're doing is you've just got to map it out. What I would be doing is think about your life chronologically, think about the events in your life, and list the different stages of significance, and effectively that will become your chapter outline. Okay? So the different stages of your life leading to the message that you want to leave. Once you've got that list, and that'll be different stages of your life, then just stop and look at each one and think about that particular time in your life. Think about the stories, think about what happened, and start taking some notes. So you're building within each of those headings, you're creating, a little bit of a dialogue there. So you bullet point, this is the story, this is what happened. And I think I'm looking at your question. If you leave stuff out, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I mean, who knows? Someone reading your book doesn't know you've left anything out. Only you know that. So as you said, as long as you have the important stepping stones and experiences written down, that. Oh, sorry, Annie, you said that. Yeah, just start writing, and what you'll find, Taisha, is once you start writing, your memory will start getting better. Because you'll start writing and then all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, what about that? And then that happened. So plan it, map it out, then just start writing, and you'll find that your memory will look after you because it's all in there. So your memory is not the problem, it's often recall that's the problem. So once you start writing and start moving, you'll find that your recall starts improving. Hopefully that helped.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. I mean, this is really helpful, even as I said, for myself who, what at some point would like to tell my story. So
you will.
So, Andrew, we have an interesting question here from Michelle. So do you have any thoughts on purchasing publishing packages from publishing companies? If it's worth it, not worth it, what is your experience?
Okay, well, I don't have a lot of experience because I have not ever purchased a publishing package, and I will not ever. I've always said that I'm tight and I'm lazy, and it's not true. I'm not lazy. I'm a little bit tight when it comes to money. I've always said I don't want to spend money to get published, and I don't want to have to do all the work. So, but if you are thinking of purchasing a publishing package, then not going to be self-published. That's a self-publishing package. Okay, so it means what if you are going to spend money and a publishing company is offering a package where obviously you're going to be paying for editing and design and probably some very, very limited promotion. just be really clear on what you're getting. Okay, I have seen there's so many. I've got to be careful how I say this because Fernando's recording this. There are so many, and it's all spin, right? It's all spin. How we, it's like it's all when you read some of those publishing packages, it looks really, really attractive. But when you actually get down to the nuts and bolts, when they say, we'll market your book out on all of the platforms and Amazon and we'll, that's not hard to do, and that's not going to sell your book. You can put your book on a shelf, but if people don't know your book's on the shelf, they're not going to buy it. If you put your book on Amazon and people don't know it's there, they're not going to buy it. So it's really what you want, what you need is probably assistance with promotion, marketing, media. Like Annie spoke a lot about interviews and podcasts, and the more you need to get your message out to direct people to the platforms where your book is. So when you're looking at publishing packages, make sure you're very, very clear on what they offer around helping get you known and your book known. If it's just, look, we're going to create some flyers for you, big deal. You can create your own flyer. Like we're going to put you on Amazon. Well, you can do that. That's not hard to do. There's websites now that you can take your book. If you self-publish, you can take the e-version and there's websites that will publish it out onto all of the. I work with a website called Draft2Digital, .com, and what they do is you upload your file and then they'll send it out to all of the platforms for you. So that's not hard to do. What's hard to do is sell your book. People have to know about the book. You've got to spend the time. You've got to obviously write a good book, and then it's all about getting people to know it. So with publishing packages, just be really, really, really clear on what you get and what you don't get before you spend any money.
Absolutely. And I think publishing packages, any industry sees similar things. My limited experience, it does remind me of kind of paid consultancy and fundraising services and things like that in the startup world, which generally from my experience, your time is better spent going after it yourself and developing those connections. And you'd be, I think Andrew and I have kind of harped on this again and again. I would really be surprised to hear anyone here who has a bad time at just working on expanding your network. If you feel like you're stuck and you don't know what to do, that would be my number one advice. And I know I've talked with Andrew enough. I hate to put words in your mouth, Andrew, but I've talked with you enough that I'm sure you'll agree. If you're like, well, I really have no idea where to start, you can find publishers' names nowadays pretty easily on the internet. You can start building your network around a community of like-minded people. Everyone in this room is a like-minded person, so I would definitely encourage folks to make a connection, and you can definitely get there.
Yeah, that's totally right, Fernando. So and LinkedIn is a wonderful platform. So again, as Fernando mentioned, I work. It's almost like it's definitely a job for me. The time I spend on LinkedIn every single day. It's not a full-time job, but it's certainly I spend at least an hour or so on LinkedIn every single day, building those connections and creating relationships. Now, the other thing I would just say to Michelle, who asked that question about the publishing packages, I would just ask you, what's your belief around getting published? What do you believe you need to find a publishing package, or do you believe your book is good enough with some work to find a traditional publisher? And I think you don't necessarily have to answer that right now, but I would be interested in having a conversation with you about what do you believe? Because if you think, well, I don't think I'm good enough to get a publisher and that's why you're doing it, then we need to talk. If it's for another reason, because maybe, some people self-publish because they want to get a book out quickly. They want to, I can't wait 6 to 12 months to find a publisher. They want to have a book for a business reason or whatever. That's a different situation altogether. But I think you've really got to be questioning your belief and your self-talk around getting published, and be aware of if you feel like it's a lack of belief, because don't let lack of belief stop you from going for the best you can be.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. And I totally agree. I had a question here from Patty, and I think that it's an interesting question. So is there anyone I need on my team to make sure my book is as good as it can be? She thought that person could be a ghostwriter, but as you said, Andrew, apparently not. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yes, you definitely need people on your team, I think. Well, without wanting to sound self-serving, I think, I'd be someone that we should talk to, Patty, that you should talk to, that you and I should have a conversation. But you want to find people that, you need cheerleaders, okay? Definitely going to say, hey, you can do it. Good on you. However, you've got to be careful. If you're writing a book, and this is unfortunately a mistake a lot of people make, is they write a book and then they hand it out to 5 of their best friends and say, tell me what you think. You hand your book out to 5 people and ask for their opinions, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get their opinions. And are their opinions what you want and need to publish a best-selling book? Not necessarily. So you need someone, I believe, that knows what publishers are looking for, that has got some industry experience, that can give you advice that's unbiased, not about whether they like the book or not, whether or not that book has got actual commercial appeal, commercial benefit. Is it engaging? Is it entertaining? Is the message strong? Is it, is there too much repetition? I would definitely find someone that could give you and tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear.
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you so much for that. And we want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we're gonna start wrapping up in a few minutes. If there's any last questions, definitely put them on the chat. I just wanted to take one quick second before I cover an excellent question here about whether reading books is a good way to help you start writing or for ideas for your story. So we'll cover that in a moment, but I did want to mention to everyone here that as Andrew said, we will be doing a larger series, a larger workshop series around this very topic, around it is also going to be called Not About the Book. Each week we're going to be covering different topics. Everyone who is participating here today will be emailing you guys an exclusive discount code, so you can get a significant discount on that if you'd like to participate. And I will also be working with Andrew Andrew will be joining the Best Being platform. If anyone here is a wellness coach or a wellness provider, definitely reach out to me, and I would love to tell you a little bit more about our platform. But Andrew will be, getting set up with Best Being in these coming days, and we will be offering. We'd like to work with him to offer a promotion. So anyone who'd like to work with Andrew, definitely reach out to me, and we'll work with you guys to give you some credits on Best Being, so you can work with Andrew at a little bit of a discount on our behalf. So with that being said, I will follow up with everyone I'll send you guys all an email. Definitely reach out to me, reach out on LinkedIn, reach out to Andrew if you have any questions, and if you'd like to connect. We're here as a community as well, and and we would like to help you guys establish partnerships and find those teammates that you need. Patty, you were asking about that. We can certainly help you find those teammates, and I think Andrew would even be a very good teammate at that. And yeah, with that being said, I'd just like to cover this question, Andrew. So what do you think? Would you say reading books is a good way to help you get started with writing, or and real quick, Liana, we will be making a recording available we will be sending out a recording to everyone after this session, just so you guys know. But so Andrew, what would you say is reading books a good way, in your opinion, to start writing your story?
Is it a good way to start writing a story? Yeah, possibly. I think reading books is an incredibly positive thing to do. I think everyone should read books, because it's going to change you. It's going to change you chemically when you read. And also, obviously, when you're reading great books, it'll give you some ideas, potentially about style of writing or what you like or what sounds good. So I think, I definitely think reading is something that everyone should do. Will it help you get started? I don't know if it'll help you get started. I think you've got to make that decision. That's got to come from you and your heart. I think reading is a wonderful, and certainly I do a lot of reading of self-help stuff, autobiographies, and I think that'll help you. When you read self-help, when you read autobiographies, often the message you'll get is about persistence and overcoming. And I think these are messages that are going to help you very, very much in your process of becoming a best-selling author.
Absolutely. Do you mind if I add something, Andrew? My sprinkle in a quick warning here. I think one thing though is attempting not to really read actively and not use reading as a sort of vehicle to keep you from getting started, which I think is something that a lot of people might be at risk at. Especially if you're finding that you're struggling to get started and you might think, oh, I'll read one more book. I'm certainly guilty of that. So I would just say, from personal opinion, actively reading. So if you're reading to get started, reading with a purpose in mind and an intention in mind. What is the structure of this book? How are they telling their story? Because you want to be getting something out of it and not using it as a vehicle to sort of procrastinate. And I used to be a master at procrastination and had to get over it very actively. I earned my PhD there, so just making sure to put my 2 cents in there.
And I will do one piece of shameless self-promotion. There is one book I recommend you read that will help you get started. It's a book called Accidental Author, and it's written by Andrew Jobling, that you can get on my website, andrewjobling.com.au. That would be a wonderful book to read to get you started.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Andrew, did you have any last thoughts that you wanted to share with the crowd here before we close out the room?
I just want to say well done for being here, every single one of you. Respect you all. I want to encourage you, no matter where you're at in your journey, it's worth it. You can do it. Get focused on what you're trying to achieve. Get started. Keep going. And you will find this an absolutely transformational process and journey. And if you need help, I'm here. You can reach out to me either through Fernando. But certainly, if you're interested, this 5-part series that's coming up, I think covers everything we've touched on. I'll talk about, the big picture and creating the vision and building belief. We'll talk about the writing process and how to do it effectively and how to create good habits and be accountable. We'll talk all about getting published and writing synopsis and covering letters and that process. And then we'll talk about the fun stuff, which like Annie's experiencing now. When you've done the job, the hard work's done, you've got your book, the fun stuff is getting it out there and using it to do things that are mind-blowing, this sort of stuff, and speaking and podcasts, all the things that you can do. So it's definitely worthwhile jumping on board the upcoming.
Agreed. And we will be starting as well a Slack group for everyone who participates in that workshop, in order to allow you to kind of get plugged into a network of like-minded authors and published authors like Andrew. This is the first time I'm meeting Annie, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Annie, we saw you there. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you seeing you here today. And yeah, just thank you guys all so much for coming today, for taking the time. Everyone here is a winner, as far as I'm concerned, for really taking this time and working on yourselves, working on your dreams. A lot of the questions are how to get started. We really hope you use this as your first step on getting started, and that from here, in the next month, in the next following months, we hear about at least 16 other published authors, because I see that those are all the folks who stayed the whole time. So I know for a fact that I'll be hearing about some new published books in the coming future. And I'm very excited to, have a little footnote there that you guys attended this webinar and heard me predict that before that happened. So thank you guys so much for showing up today. We will be sending out the recording, and we hope to see you guys very soon. Have a really great day or evening, wherever it is that you are in the world.
Well done. Thank you.